particular lesson, what you're going to be doing is reviewing feudalism. So if you remember a while back, we talked about Japanese feudalism when we were learning about Asian cultures. And we talked about how it can best be seen in the form of a pyramid. So if you look at it, the peasant class is at the bottom, which includes peasants, which also includes merchants and artisans, anybody who does hard labor or hard work. Then you have the samurai. The samurai, the next level up, was we talked about, are the protector class in the Japanese system. Then you had the daimyo, who were the people who controlled the samurai. They were the generals in warfare. Then you had the shogun, as we said, who runs the show, the people who actually do most of the back-breaking work. And then finally we had the emperor at the top, who was in charge of really nothing, was more of a figurehead and held no true power. So while this was happening in Japan, right around the same time, in the Middle Ages, we have the same kind of system going on in Europe. Now in Europe, there's a lot of similarities. We have, again, feudalism is this political, military, and social system that basically describes how people are living in this time in these small kingdoms that they live in. And it's all based on land, and it's all based on loyalty to your lords. Fief, another important word that did not show up in the Japanese system. A fief is a piece of land. It's a fancy word for a piece of land that is given to someone as you go down the pyramid, starting from the top down to the people in the lower levels. Lord, again, is the same as in the Japanese system. As you go up, you have more land, and the people above you are your lords. As you go down, you become vassals. You are people who receive the fiefs, people who receive these pieces of land. So when you look at the pyramid, as we talked about yesterday, it looks somewhat similar to the Japanese system, but there are some key differences. One similarity is you do have the peasants at the bottom, who are often sometimes called serfs. In the culture in Europe of feudalism, you had two types of peasants. You had what were called freemen, which were people who were allowed to basically leave the kingdom and go and work in different kingdoms wherever they wanted. And the other ones were, of course, the serfs. The serfs were tied to the land, which means they had no choice. They had to live on that kingdom, and they were tied to that king, and they were not allowed to leave, no matter how much they didn't like how things were going. You have knights, who, of course, are the protector class. You'll learn more about them in another one of these lessons that you're going to be doing. The knights, of course, had different types of armor, but they served very similar to the samurai. Their code was called chivalry, which you'll also learn in another one of these lessons. We call the next group lords and ladies. Basically, those are all your rich people. All your people who have lots of money, who then tell and control the knights and tell them what to do, and of course also control the peasants in many ways as well. One key difference from the feudalist system that we learned about in Japan is that the kings and queens of the European system are in complete control. They have all the say, they have all the power, they tell people what they are to do. Moving on here. So here's what you're going to do in this particular review. Very straightforward and simple. You're going to click the Brain Pop link that is in the Schoology folder that you're currently in, and it's going to take you to the Feudalism Brain Pop activity. You're going to watch the video featuring, of course, Tim Moby, sorry, I believe that's the name. You're going to watch this video. It's very short, probably about 5 minutes. But what then I want you to do next is I want you to take the quiz. And by the way, you will need to log in with the Milford login, which is also in this Schoology folder. Make sure you take the graded quiz, this one right here. It's going to ask you about 10 multiple choice questions based on the video that you watched. One key thing I want you to do is when you finish this quiz, I'm going to do very horribly, just to show you what I'd like you to do. Be interesting if all the answers were right, but you know that's not going to happen. All right, so I'm going to go through here and click. When you are done, ooh, I got 2 right. When you are done, down at the bottom there's a button that says email your results. I want you to email the results to my email, which is also listed in the Schoology folder, which is ruck_b@milfordschools.org. That is the only task you have for this particular activity. See how you can do with Tim and Moby.